This video is brought to you by the Battle Zoo Bestiary, a new book with over 100 award-winning monsters and other resources from Paizo lead designer Mark Cypher. Sign up today at kickstarter.rollforcombat.com and join the campaign when it launches on August 31st. Hey everybody, Dave here with another Pathfinder rule reminder for you, and today I'm just going to do a pretty quick and brief overview of how to set the DC for a task when that's not provided for you in an adventure or a stat block. So there are two basic ways for setting a DC. The first of those is by using a simple DC, and the second of those is setting a DC based on a level. So if you check out page 503 in the core rules, there is a table there, table 10-5, that breaks down the standard DCs by level. So anytime you have a player who wants to do something and it's interacting with a creature, an object, anything that has a level associated with it, then the easiest thing to do is to look up that level on this chart, find out what the listed standard DC is, and use that as a starting point. So for example, if you have players and they have arrived at a crime scene and there's a person who's dead, and they do a medicine check and they believe that this person's been poisoned, but they want to find out what poison was used to kill this person. Well, if this was a 5th level poison, then we look up the table 10-5, and we see 5th level has a DC of 20. So if a 5th level poison was used to kill a person, and the players want to figure out, well, what poison was used, that's a great place to start. DC 20 for being 5th level. Now from there you can check out table 10-6, which is on page 504, and that table gives you some guidance for modifying and adjusting these starting DCs. Most commonly you're going to be adjusting due to rarity. So for this same example, if this poison wasn't a common 5th level poison, but maybe it was an uncommon 5th level poison, well then due to that rarity it would become a hard check and you would add 2 to it, making it DC 22. But the difficulty can also go the other direction. If this character had lore poison, then you would lower the DC, and typically whenever a lore skill is used, you lower the DC by 2. It starts off as an easy level DC instead of a standard level DC. And this same simple process can be used for really anything that has a level. If you want to identify a monster and see what you know about this kind of creature, well, you would use that creature's level as the starting place for the DC, and then modifying it by rarity and any other modifiers that the GM believes is appropriate. So that is the first option, setting the DC based on the level of something the player is interacting with on that task. Your second option is by using simple DCs. And simple DCs are not based on experience level, instead they are based on proficiency. So as a GM you ask yourself, what level of proficiency would I expect a person to have in order to succeed at this task? So one way to illustrate this is by thinking about climbing a rope. If that rope has some knots tied in it every foot or so, and it is hanging adjacent to a wall, then pretty much anybody should be able to get up that, or even if it was like a rope ladder that they can put their feet on. So you might say that's untrained to climb a rope like that. But if the rope was unknotted and just hanging against a wall, then maybe that would be trained. If the rope was hanging out in the middle of a room and there wasn't a wall that you could plant your feet on to kind of walk up with, or to get some sort of purchase on if it's a very rough wall, then maybe now we're talking about it being expert difficulty. But the key is, climbing any of those ropes is not dependent upon experience levels. It's not like the ropes you climb at 15th level are more difficult to climb than at 3rd level. So you don't adjust due to experience level, you just take whatever that situation would call for and just use a simple DC. Now there is in the core rules an example of climbing not a rope, but climbing up a wall. But you could also still apply, in a lot of cases, the DCs by level to the same situation. So if this wall is the protective outer wall around a fortress, and this fortress was designed by a 14th level villain, and that 14th level villain specifically designed the walls so that they would be difficult to climb, then you would take a look at the DCs by level chart and say 14th level guy designed it and he wanted to keep people from climbing it. Well, 14th level is a DC 32, so we're going to use DC 32 as the DC for climbing this wall. So that's it in a very brief nutshell. There's a lot that can go into setting DCs, but the basic premise is if there is a level assigned to whatever the character is interacting with and trying to overcome with this task, then start by finding that level on the DC by level chart and then adjusting it with the adjustments for rarity and so forth on table 10.6. And if there's not a level associated with it, or this is something that really shouldn't even be affected by levels, then go to the simple DC charts, think about what level of proficiency you would expect someone to have in order to succeed at this task, use that as your starting point, and then modify by table 10.6 as well. So that's it for setting DCs. If you have any suggestions for future rule reminders or any questions about today's topic, please leave those in the comments. I will make sure that I leave links to any of my other videos that are relevant to this topic in the description. For example, I have videos that go into how to set the DCs for identifying monsters, how to do that for identifying magic items, and so forth. I'll make sure those links are in the description so you can check those out if you want more guidance on this. And as always, I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to everybody out there who supports me in this channel, whether that's by leaving comments and suggestions, liking this video, subscribing to the channel, subscribing to the Patreon. It all adds up, and I greatly appreciate everything the community does to support me. And with that, thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.